Thanks MSI for sponsoring my coverage of Computex 2024.
This year at Computex, MSI had a metric butt ton of new products. Seriously, about 70 to 80% of what they had on show was new. But they had some incredibly cool things that stood out, so strap yourselves in because I am super excited to tell you all about them. But before we jump into those products, we need to talk about how MSI are redefining their gaming lineup. All their products from this point onwards will fall into one of three categories: MAG, MPG, and MEG. MAG is their budget entry-level category, MPG is the middle ground between quality, performance, and price, and lastly, MEG is their very high-end, best of the best enthusiast tier. It's good to see MSI clearly defining everything in this way and therefore making it easier for consumers to know which tier of parts they should be shopping in, which for most people is probably going to be that MPG line of products. We love clear branding. Okay, so let's jump into the first highlight, which is probably one of the biggest announcements that we saw, which is CAM2. This is a brand new type of memory module MSI developed in partnership with Kingston. Instead of having 4 sticks of memory coming out of the board, this is a single chip that goes into a socket, similar to like how a CPU works, and sits flat against the board. This single chip does run in dual channel mode, so there isn't any sacrifices in performance there. In fact, CAM2 modules apparently will start at speeds of 8400 megatransfers per second, which is absolutely nuts. It brings a lot more benefits as well. CPU cooler clearance with RAM is basically eliminated. It can make water cooling a lot easier with that extra room, and with that extra room underneath where the module is, you could put like an extra M.2 slot, for example. Another big benefit is its repairability. With the way it's mounted, shipping pre-built systems gets a ton easier and there's a lot less issues that can go wrong. Currently, loose memory modules and sometimes, depending on how badly it's packed, even RAM modules completely snapping in shipping is a concern, and it does happen from time to time. This would completely eliminate that. And if anything does go wrong with the CAM2 socket, it's quite easy to replace. You just loosen a few screws on the back plate, on the back of the motherboard, and just take the socket right out and then just replace it with a new one. And I really love CAM2 for this reason because it means it can eliminate a lot of e-waste that's happening. Current motherboards, if a memory slot fails, more often than not, the entire motherboard has to be replaced, even if everything else is working. This way, it's a lot cheaper for a brand to send out a replacement part and they don't have to just completely throw out an entirely good motherboard. You're only basically throwing out the CAM2 socket that's failed. So this is going to be really, really great for the environment going forward overall, and just less wastage, less costs being, less money being lost in replacements and things like that. So there's just a lot of benefits in that regard. We don't know what the exact pricing of these modules is going to be, but MSI are confident that CAM2 modules should hopefully be more affordable than the current memory modules that we've been using for many years. We'll have to wait and see how that ends up though, as there's many factors to this, which is a whole discussion in itself. If true, that is going to be pretty nice for anyone building a new PC. However, I believe we'll only see CAM2 on motherboards in the mid to high end range. So for MSI, most likely just on the MPG and MEG lines of products. Probably not on the budget boards, but who knows? Maybe they will. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts on CAM2 in the comments below. Moving on to what might be one of the most popular new monitors coming out this year. MSI are releasing what will be the cheapest QD-OLED on the market. The MAG 271 QPX is a 26.5-inch 1440p monitor with 240Hz refresh rate and a 0.03 millisecond response time. So for being a budget QD-OLED, the specs ain't messing around. And that price, by the way, MSI apparently want to target 1,000 Australian dollars. Now, that does still sound expensive, and it is, like there's no denying that, but we're talking about QD-OLED here, not regular IPS panels, or even just regular OLED panels for that matter. QD-OLED prices currently, they're about 1,500 to 2,000 Australian dollars. So 1,000 is a pretty significant price drop. Suddenly QD-OLEDs are going to be way more affordable for a large majority of people, and that's pretty exciting. It also has VESA True Black 400 certification with a peak brightness of 1,000 nits. This was the first time I've actually experienced QD-OLED, and the quality is stunning. Like, it's incredible. With the deep blacks and vibrant colors, I see why QD-OLED is the peak of what monitors have to offer, even more so than just regular OLED. And QD-OLED is naturally going to provide a lot of accurate colors as well, with 10-bit color depth and a delta E of below 2, which basically means that the colors are going to be accurate enough for some professional work. OLED burn-in is always going to be a concern though, less so these days as OLED panel technology has improved. But in MSI's OLED and QD-OLED panels, they include their OLED Care 2.0. This includes a bunch of different methods and features for managing the life and care of the pixels in the monitor. And if that isn't enough, they're also offering a 3-year warranty on all of their monitors as well, which is pretty nice. MSI are also quite on top of supporting their monitors with ongoing firmware updates to address any issues that may crop up or just refine things as time goes on. And when you're spending that much money on a product like that, you definitely want that reassurance that, one, you're going to be covered if something does go wrong, but two, that they will actively keep supporting it. So I'm really glad that MSI has been so active on that side of things. And again, that could be the factor that will make someone choose to go with MSI over another brand. So if you want to know more about the monitor when it finally drops, let me know down in the comments and make sure you stay subscribed so you don't miss it. Now, speaking of screens, MSI unveiled their new MPG Core Liquid P-Series all-in-one coolers. Yeah, that's right. That's a big old screen right there, 4.3 inches to be exact. You can angle it up to 40 degrees as well, depending on how you have your PC positioned on your desk, which is a nice little touch. And honestly, it's pretty cool. I really like this a lot. The size is much bigger than what we've typically seen on coolers thus far, but not so big that it's going to start to pose compatibility issues. But the new design doesn't stop just with the screen. Those fans that you're seeing there, they're all connected together, meaning it only takes 4 screws to mount all the fans to the radiator. Very handy. It's a lot quicker. Plus, the whole thing can be powered off just one cable. Yeah, I'm not joking. The pump, the RGB, the fans, the screen, all from a single cable. Now, on new MSI motherboards, there'll be a dedicated connector for this, but MSI also know how to play nice too. If you do happen to go with a motherboard from a different brand, you can still use a single cable to power this AIO. It'll just have to use one of the USB-C headers on the motherboard. And normally this would be taken up from the case if it has USB-C ports on it. So you will have to sort of toss up the decision and kind of pick one or the other, but at least you have the option there. I'll have to wait until I can get my hands on this cooler to fully explore its cross-compatibility, so stay tuned for that. The last thing I want to show you is an innovation for GPU cooler design. This new design is called Fusion. That's Fusion with a Z, by the way. MSI wanted to be fancy. The MSI engineering wizards have managed to fit an entire all-in-one cooler inside the GPU cooler shroud. Normally you would end up with a smaller, thinner GPU block with tubes going to another radiator in the case, but MSI thought, nah, let's have less tubes and things going everywhere. Let's just put the whole thing inside. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Nick, GPUs are already so thick and chunky. We don't want them even chunkier. Ah, well, here's the thing. Have you even seen current 4080s and 4090s? Those things are already massive. If anything, it's most likely going to be the same size, just a lot more effective at cooling. Probably a bit quieter too. And from what I saw of the physical units that they had on display there, they pretty much look the same size. They don't really look like they're going to be super chunky. And especially with the 4090 version of it, like a regular 4090, the coolers are so beefy on there, and they basically just look the same. We may see these Fusion GPUs out before the end of the year, so fingers crossed we do, and hopefully I get to check one out. So there you have it, some of the coolest stuff on show from MSI's gaming division at Computex. Stay tuned for more of my Computex coverage coming very, very soon, so subscribe and slap that like button. Thanks again MSI for sponsoring my trip to Computex, and thank you all for watching. I'm Nick, this is Techtacula, you've been spectacular, see you next time.